If you, this is the first time you've been here for a while, or if this is the first time that you've been here, you may have just missed the series that we just finished called Camping with Christ, and we looked at Jesus, and that was all that we looked at. And you can look at that online if you want to, if you go to risingsunchurch.org to kind of catch up to where we are now. But I get to do a brand new series, and it's only 1 week, so it's that's all they give me in a row. But it's brand new, and what we're going to talk about today is love. And so why don't you take just a second and tell the person sitting beside you that you love them. Good. Now turn to that person that you just told that to and tell them why you love them. It's not as loud now. A lot of laughter, a lot of love. I like it. So, have you ever known somebody, or maybe you are this person sometimes, even when you don't want to be, but there's something that you've got to get finished, right? There's something that has a deadline. Maybe it doesn't have a deadline, but you know that it needs to be finished, right? But you keep putting it off. You keep putting it off, and you're not working on it like you should. It's in that building stage, right? It's in that building stage maybe for years. Does anybody know that person? Does anybody think that they are that person? I have to tell you so my senior year I had 8 classes in high school, and I think 7 of them were in the ag room. And so while I'm in there, my only project my senior year was to build this shed, right? And it's not a big shed. It's a shed that's maybe 5 by 7, something like that. It's not very big at all. And so this shed should have taken maybe 3 weeks. And it was in about week 8 or so that my ag teacher said, "Hey, we're gonna have to get some more people working on this, right? Because it's still in the building stage. Because lumber was coming in and we didn't have enough, and we're waiting on all this stuff, but it was just in the building stages for a long time. And so then we have a lot of other people coming in to help, and there's like 5 or 6 of us working on this shed now, and there's like 1,800 nails in the top of it, and I'm talking this shed is pretty much made of metal now. Is how many nails are in this shed, and we worked on it, but it stayed in the building stages. It stayed in the building stages. I've told you the story before about my friend and I in college who put our homework off all the way until the end of the semester, and so then we stayed up for 72 hours in a row to try to finish homework at the end of it, and we just put it off. It was in the building stages, right, for a long time, for way longer than it should have been, because we keep things in the building stages, sometimes a little too long than we should. We may do it at work. We may have a project, maybe a project deadline that we have to reach, but we don't quite get it because it's in the building stage for too long. Yard maintenance, right? Maybe your yard gets too long because, honestly, who has time to mow their yard anyway? Nobody, right? So it's in the building stages. It all stays in the building stages sometimes, and it's frustrating. The building stages can be frustrating, right? It can be frustrating for us if we know that it's a deadline that we have to try to reach and we can't reach it. It's certainly frustrating for other people when somebody is buying this shed and they know that they were supposed to get it like 8 months ago, right? It's frustrating. It's frustrating. And let me tell you what else is frustrating is when we do the same thing with loving each other. When we're supposed to be loving each other, but it's just in the building stages, and we don't go as far as we should. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about we, as a church, because I am just as guilty as every other person in this room. I want you to, if you have your Bible, open up to 1 John chapter 3. That's where we're gonna be this morning. For the most part. 1 John chapter 3, I'll give you just a second to turn there. We're not in the book of John, not in the Gospels. It's after that. So there's 3 of them. We're in the first one. Chapter 3, in verse 11. For this is the message you heard from the beginning. And the words are on the screen too. We should love one another. Do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own actions were evil and his brothers were righteous. So you probably know the story of Cain and Abel. Even if you've never read it, you've probably heard about it before. It's in Genesis chapter 4. And I don't remember if this one's on the screen or not, but if you want to go ahead and turn there, we're going to walk through just a little bit of it. So Adam and Eve, the very first people that were here on earth, they gave birth to a son. And his name is Cain, right? Cain, the one that's talking about in 1 John right now. And so just soon after that, then Eve gives birth to Abel, Cain's little brother, right? Don't know how far apart they are. They might be twins, who knows? But Cain is older. And so Cain, he's kind of in charge of the ground. He works the soil, and Abel, he works the flocks, right? He keeps track of the livestock, and he watches after them. And it says in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel brought an offering of fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. So it's just saying that Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil, right? He brought some as an offering, because it's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to bring an offering, so he brought some. And then it says that Abel brought some of the first of the herd, of the flock, The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast, is what the NIV says. Now, downcast, okay? I had to Google this because I'm from Missouri, and I don't know words like that. And so I look up downcast, and as a person, it's frustrated. And then it says, so on Google it has face and person. And on face it just says that the eyes are looking down, right? Eyes are looking down because he's angry. He's angry. Nobody looks up when you're angry. So his face is downcast. And he says, if you do what is right, will you not be accepted? This is what God is saying to him. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. You must rule over it. So he had a choice to make. And then you see his choice in verse 8. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. While they were there in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel, and he killed him. Right after that, the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? And Cain said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? The Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. And Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is more than I can bear. Cain saying, hey, yeah, I messed up, but I'm the victim here, right? You looked on him with favor. You didn't look on me with favor. I'm the victim. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. This is Cain talking. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. But the Lord said, not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. And it goes on to talk more about it there. But I think we're living the legacy of Cain. I think we're living the legacy of Cain. I think the church is living that legacy. We're playing victim. So the fair was just in town, right? The state fair is a big deal. I didn't go. Kind of wish that I would have, maybe one day, but I'm just not a big fair goer until it comes to the county fair, right? So my county fair, where I grew up, is a pretty big deal, okay? So like the population doubles, so there's like 12 people in the town, and this fair is just a big deal. And so whenever I was a kid, probably 5th grade, we were playing games, and one of the greatest things in all of the world is skee ball. And so they had this big skee ball thing, and it was just the sketchiest game that you would, like, all the pieces are broken at the end, but you knew that you could win. And so I'm throwing these, and I'm trying to get the score that's high enough to win this giant Pikachu. And I'm talking giant, like Pikachu as big as me, right, in 5th grade, so like the same size that I am now. Big Pikachu. And so I wanted this so bad, and I kept rolling, but I kept winning these little Scooby-Doos, and I couldn't get that Pikachu, right? I had to get 10,000, and I kept getting like 5,000 or 6,000 on my points. And so I kept going to my mom, and I'd be like, "Mom, I'm really hungry. I need some more money," right? And Mom, I know you're watching online. Sorry. So I would take the money that I was supposed to use to go and eat, and usually I would go and eat too. But then I would save some, right? And so I would go play skee ball. And so I'm trying to win this Pikachu, right? And by the end of the night, every night, I would have like 15 little Scooby-Doos. And I don't know what to do with those. But I tried because I wanted that Pikachu so bad. But holding on to greed always costs us something. It always costs us something. Then it just happened to cost me not a lot of money because it's only 50 cents a play, but as a kid, it was quite a bit of money, right? I had lost a lot of it. I didn't get what I wanted because greed always costs us something. It may be in the middle of costing us something right now, right? Greed may have cost us a marriage. It may have cost us money. Greed always costs us something. It's like we're slaves to it. It's a legacy of Cain. In verse 12 again, if you want to bring that back up on the screen. Do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own actions were evil and his brothers were righteous. He killed him because he was righteous. He had no love because he was of the world. He had not surrendered to grace. Turn with me to Romans chapter 6. Romans chapter 6, this one's on the screen. We're going to read 8 through 14. Now, if we died with Christ, we believe that we will also live with him. For we know that since Christ was raised from the dead, he cannot die again. Death no longer has mastery over him. The death he died to sin once for all. But the life he lives to God. In the same way, count yourselves dead to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus. Therefore, do not let sin reign in your mortal bodies so that you obey its evil desires. Do not offer any part of yourself to sin as an instrument of wickedness, but rather offer yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life, and offer every part of yourself to him as an instrument of righteousness. For sin no longer shall be your master, because you are not under the law, but under grace. Sin is no longer our master because we have passed from death to life. We have surrendered to grace, or we have the opportunity to surrender to grace. Turn back to 1 John chapter 3. I think this is the first time we're gonna turn somewhere unless something happens, but in 13 through 15. Do not be surprised, my brothers and sisters, if the world hates you. We know that we have passed from death to life because we love each other. Anyone who does not love remains in death. Anyone who hates a brother or sister is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life residing in him. He's saying, don't be surprised if the world hates you. Don't be surprised if Cain hates you. Don't be surprised if the person sitting next to you that's not filled with love hates you. Don't be surprised if your family that's not filled with love hates you. Don't be surprised if your spouse without love hates you. Don't be surprised if anyone without love hates you. We love each other, and that's how we know that we've passed from death to life. I have the best mom in the world, and I say that because I didn't do laundry for the first time in my life until I was 18. And so I went to college with no idea how to run a washing machine or a dryer. I knew there was buttons, and I know that you hit them, and that's all. Some of them have a dial. Most of them are just buttons now. And that's all I knew. That is all I knew. But I thought that I knew enough, right? I thought I knew enough that it would be good enough that I could do laundry. And so I tried. I tried to do laundry, and it was a mess, let me tell you. So the first 3 times that I did laundry in college, one of them was at the laundromat. All right, so I went kind of downtown to the one that had the big washers because I was going to save some money. And I had this laundry piled up in the corner. So my laundry basket was under it, but you couldn't see it. And so it was way high. And so I took it all, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna jam all of this into one load because then it's only $1. And so here I go, and it's one of the front loaders. And so I'm like putting laundry in, and it's all falling back out. And so I'm turned around, and I'm mule kicking the washer to try to pack more laundry in there. And I'm just trying as hard as I can because I'm going to save money, right? And I thought I knew how to do laundry because, surely, I know enough that it's good enough. It'll get washed, right? And so then my friend Dalton and I are sitting there looking out the window with our backs to everything, and we both got headphones in, and Dalton nudges me. And I looked at him, and he didn't really do anything, and so I just kind of looked back, and I was reading. And he nudged me again, and I looked at him, nothing. I looked back, I'm like, I don't know what he's doing. And so he nudges me again, and I took my earphones out, and I'm like, what? And I hear this lady go, whose laundry is this? And so I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so I wanted to be like, it's his, it's Dalton's. But I didn't. I was like, that's my laundry. And because I turned around, and smoke is everywhere, right? So I had caught this washer on fire because it just couldn't handle how much laundry was in there. And so I thought I knew how to do laundry good enough. I thought I knew how to do it good enough. And so then I go again, and the next time was at the school. And this time, I don't have any idea what I did wrong, and I'm still convinced that it was the dryer and not me. But I put all of my laundry in the dryer after I'd washed it, and I wash all of my whites and everything together because I don't care. And so that's why you don't see me wearing white because I don't have any. It's all pink now. And so I put all of this in the dryer, and my one of the guys on the floor comes into my room. He's like, hey, I think that's your laundry in the dryer. And so instantly I'm like, oh no, what did I do? And so I walk down to the laundry room, and I look in the dryer, and there's 6 inches of standing water in the dryer, and about 4 inches of standing water on the floor of the laundry room. And I don't know. I don't know if it was me. I don't know if it was my clothes or something in my pocket, but I thought that I knew how to do laundry good enough, right? I thought that I knew how to do it good enough. So I've only had poison ivy twice in my life, and one of those times is right now. So I have poison on my arm, and I went to Evelyn Shiver's house. Evelyn, sorry that I didn't say goodbye when I left. I was in a hurry. But I'm loading up these fence posts, and I could have sworn that there wasn't poison ivy, but I guess that there was. And so I'm loading it in the truck, and I get home, and I'm like, you know what? Just in case there was poison in there, I didn't see any, but just in case, I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do, and that's wash with Dawn dish soap is what I've always heard. And so I'm thinking, okay, well I can do that. That's good enough. Just get the poison away, right? So I take and I'm washing, and it's all gone, and no poison. We're good. And so then I'm sitting there, I'm like, ooh. I'm sitting there watching a movie or something, and I start itching, and I look down, and I've got poison all over my arm, and I'm like, what? But Dawn dish soap, it was good enough. It was good enough. And so then we're having a staff conversation, and this is one of the deep theological conversations we have. We're talking about poison ivy, and I'm like, yeah, I washed with Dawn dish soap, so I don't know what happened. And Steve's like, no, you're an idiot. You gotta and he showed me this video, and the video is, this guy's like taking like regular soap and Dawn dish soap and something else, and like he's got different spots of it, and he's like rubbing himself all over poison. I'm like, dude's crazy, but he's doing this, and I'm thinking, well, that's, I washed with Dawn dish soap. That was good enough. But then he said, no, that's not the key. The key is friction, right? You gotta have friction, and that's what takes it off. And so I'm like, gosh, that just makes sense. That makes sense, right? Because I thought Dawn dish soap was good enough. I did everything that I could that was good enough to make sure that I didn't get poison. I did everything that was good enough to make sure that my laundry didn't explode. And I think that we love people the same way. I think that we're all guilty of that to some degree, right? We love people to the point where we think, oh, that's good enough. They're gonna be okay because I've loved him till it's good enough. We don't really want to commit. So really the minimal is sufficient, right? If someone's sitting there on the street and you go up to them and say, hey, I think you're awesome. Let me just love on you for a second until it's good enough. Until I've loved you good enough. We have opportunities, we just don't take them. We have all kinds of opportunities to love people, and we don't take them. And when we do, normally we just love them until it's good enough. So what does it mean to really love somebody? What's that level of love that we need to reach? With poison, I thought it was just good enough to use Dawn dish soap, right? Kind of scrub it off. With the laundry, I thought it was good enough to just put as much in there as I could to save some money. But it wasn't. With poison, with laundry, you can't stop at good enough. And church, I'm here to tell you this morning that love is the exact same way. You can't stop at just good enough. 1 John chapter 3, verse 16. It says this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. We ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. Dylan, are you saying that you're supposed to die? Like you have to die for somebody in order to love them? I'm not going to make that decision for you. You're going to make that decision, but I can tell you right now that that's what I would do. Now, yesterday, the day before, maybe I wouldn't have. But that's exactly what I would do. This has hit me really hard this weekend, the last few days. I don't really have a lot of regrets in my entire life besides the washer and the Pokemon. But I don't have a lot of regrets. One of them that I do have, though, is that I've had multiple people in the last few years come to me and tell me how bad they're hurting. They come to me and say, listen, like especially whenever I was at college or whenever I was in high school, like I really need somebody, right? I'm hurting. Something's going on and I don't know what to do. And do you know what I did about it? Most of the time, nothing. Most of the time, nothing. Maybe I would tell them that I was praying for them. Maybe tell them, oh, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. But usually I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything because I was loving people until it was good enough. So what is it then? What is laying down your life? Here's what it isn't. Listening to someone tell you how broken they are. Listening to someone tell you how bad they're hurting. and you not doing anything about it, right? Maybe tell them, hey, I'm praying for you. Hey, it's going to be okay. But that's just loving until it's good enough. Maybe it's listening to how bad somebody is hurting. Listening to how bad someone is broken. Telling them it's going to be okay. But it's just loving until it's good enough. It's not seeing how bad someone's broken, seeing how bad somebody is hurting, and then wishing that you didn't know how bad they're hurting and how broken they are. Because that's not love. It's just loving until it's good enough. And I'm guilty of all of it. In church, you are too. But not anymore. The band can go ahead and come up. Whenever I look back on my regrets, it's almost the only one I have. But not anymore. It won't happen anymore. I should have laid it down. I should have gotten down on their level. I should have bared the burdens with them and for them. And I didn't. Should have gotten the trenches where they were, get down on their level, because that's what love is. That's what love does. And we're so bad at it. But true love doesn't stop at good enough. 1 John chapter 3, verse 17. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, do not let love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. I wish I wasn't in a hurry so that I could love that person more. I wish that I knew more scripture so that I knew the right thing to say. I wish that I didn't know how bad that person was struggling, because that would make my life easier. I'll just say a prayer for them and that'll be enough. And I'm guilty of every last one of those. And I know that everybody in this room can identify with one of them too. We can't love until it's good enough. We don't love until it's good enough. We love until it's all that we've got. People are hurting even here in this room, and if that's you, do not hide it. Let us love you and let us embrace you. And church, whenever we embrace somebody, we don't love them until it's good enough. We love them until it's all that we've got. If it's possession, if it's getting down in the trenches with people who are hurting, just stop loving until it's good enough. You've got to love until it's all that you've got. Church, I've made a commitment, and it's a new one, but I'm going to love until it's all I've got, and I expect the exact same thing from you. If you're hurting, if you need the church to gather around to love you, to embrace you, then you can come now. And love starts now.